Hey, welcome to our channel. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss our latest content.
I remember the way she smiled. It was a smile I hadn't seen in a long time. Pure, unburdened joy. The kind that reached her eyes and made them shine like they did when we first met. Ever since her sister, Serafina, announced her engagement, my wife, Ilara, had taken on the wedding preparations like a personal mission. The two of them, they were something else. Inseparable. Always had been. Despite the 5-year age gap, they shared a bond forged in whispered secrets, shared bedrooms, and summer afternoons spent laughing until their stomachs ached. For Ilara, this wedding wasn't just a party, it was a chance to relive that magic. A chance to add another golden chapter to their story. She volunteered for everything. The bridal shower, the invitations, even tasting cakes until she swore she couldn't look at frosting again. But the bachelorette party, that was her masterpiece. That was what brought that brilliant, forgotten smile back to her face. The idea came up on a Sunday, a casual dinner at her parents' house. The air was thick with the smell of roast chicken and the comfortable chatter of family. Serafina, or Sarah, as we all called her, mentioned she didn't want the typical bachelorette affair. No tacky sashes, no ridiculous games, no endless parade of bars. She wanted something intimate, special. That's when Ilara's eyes lit up. The country house, she said, her voice full of sudden energy. We should use the family's country house. It was perfect, I had to admit. Secluded, spacious, surrounded by the woods and fields of their childhood memories. The plan she laid out was simple. One night, just her, Sarah, and their closest friends. Laughter, old stories, a playlist packed with unapologetic 2000s pop music, and conversations that lasted until the sun came up. Just women. Like it had always been. Sarah loved it. Ilara, that's perfect. No clubs. No long-distance trips with logistical nightmares. Just a moment, suspended in time, with the people who mattered most. As the plans took shape, Ilara was a whirlwind of activity. She ordered catered snacks, assembled little gift bags with old photos, drove out to the house herself to make up the beds and clear the leaves from the backyard patio. Her phone buzzed constantly with confirmations. Their cousins, both from out of state, her childhood friends, the ones who had been there since kindergarten. Each one promised they wouldn't miss it for the world. It was more than a party, it was a reunion, and Ilara, my Ilara, was the architect of it all. She said it was a chance to celebrate the essence of their friendships, closeness, loyalty. I, however, didn't share the same enthusiasm, and that's where my story, really begins. When she told me the final plan, sitting on the edge of our bed, her face glowing with excitement, I felt a familiar knot tighten in my stomach. Who all is going? I asked, trying to keep my tone light. She listed the names. All familiar. All women. And it's just going to be at the old house? All night? I pressed gently. It's pretty far out of town if you're really just having a girls' night. Ilara laughed. It was a sweet sound, but it felt dismissive. She thought my concern was exaggerated. Overprotective. Donovan, it's just a quiet night, she said, touching my arm. Relax. It's for Sarah. I tried to hide my discomfort. I really did. But we'd been down this road before, years ago. Parties with friends that had gotten out of hand. Situations where I had felt disrespected, where lines had been blurred. We'd argued. We'd set boundaries. We'd moved on. Or so I thought. This time, Ilara was careful with her words. She looked me in the eye. Her expression serious now. I respect our relationship, she said softly. I understand our boundaries. The last thing I would ever want to do is cause you any doubt. I took a deep breath. I looked at her earnest face, at the woman I had built my life with, and I made a choice. I chose to trust her. In the days that followed, she was a blur of motion, checking every last detail. She bought cases of sparkling wine, hired a local decorator for some simple floral arrangements, curated playlists, and wrapped personalized gifts. At home, I watched her in silence. I saw the pure, unadulterated excitement in her. It was almost as if it were her own wedding all over again. And even though that knot in my stomach remained, a dull, persistent ache, I tried to smile. I tried to support her. I told her how happy I was for Sarah, and how amazing she was for doing all of this. The night before the trip, she wrapped her arms around me in the hallway. A tight, lingering hug. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon, she whispered into my shoulder. You can relax while I'm gone. I promise. I smiled back. But my eyes said something else. By late afternoon the next day, the cars were gathered in front of her parents' house, a convoy ready to head for the countryside. There were about 10 of them. Cousins, childhood friends, college friends. They all emerged wearing matching t-shirts Alara had designed, laughing loudly, taking selfies, buzzing with an energy that felt electric. I saw Sarah get into Alara's car. I was just pulling into my own driveway, coming home from work. I saw her turn to my wife, her face beaming, and I could practically read her lips even from a distance. This is going to be one of the most unforgettable nights of my life. Alara, behind the wheel, smiled proudly, a creator admiring her creation. She couldn't have imagined, neither of them could have, how that sentence would carry a meaning so much darker, so much more permanent, than anything they could have possibly imagined at that moment. Because what was about to happen in that isolated house, it would change the course of all our lives. Forever. They returned late the next morning. I was in the kitchen, making coffee, the silence of the house feeling heavy. I heard her car pull into the driveway, the crunch of tires on gravel. When she walked in, she looked tired, but she was smiling. "Hey," she said, dropping her purse on the counter. "Hey, how was it?" I tried to keep my tone neutral, though every nerve in my body was on high alert, searching. She came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist and resting her head on my back. Her hair smelled faintly of bonfire smoke. "Just like we agreed," she murmured. "Just us, just gossip and laughs." It was good, really good for Sarah. I turned around in her embrace and looked into her eyes, searching for any flicker of discomfort, any hint of a lie, but she seemed calm. There was no trace of guilt, only the exhaustion and the same lightheartedness of someone returning from a perfectly normal night with friends. The knot in my stomach loosened. Just a little. Maybe I had been wrong. Maybe my past was making me paranoid. The following days were peaceful, deceptively so. Sarah was back in the whirlwind of final wedding preparations. Alara was by her side, helping with small tasks, double-checking details with the planner. I tried to push that nagging feeling out of my head, that instinct that something was off. It was like an invisible stone stuck in my shoe, nothing concrete, just a whisper of unease. But everything changed 3 days before the wedding. I was at work, sitting in front of my computer, trying to focus on a quarterly report. My phone buzzed on the desk. A text message. It was from Reese, a friend. His wife, Cassia, had also been at the bachelorette party. "Dude, I need to talk to you. Now. This can't wait. It's serious." My heart sped up. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Before I could even reply, a second message came through. It was just a link. No explanation. No context. For a few seconds, I just sat there, frozen, staring at the blue, underlined text on my screen. A cold dread, thick and suffocating, began to creep up my spine. My hand was trembling slightly as I moved the mouse and clicked. The video started. Familiar female voices. Upbeat music. The warm, inviting lights of the country house living room. It looked innocent enough. Then the image became clear. Serafina, the bride-to-be, was dancing in the middle of the room, with a man I had never seen before, a man who was shirtless, and, in the background, walking by with a drink in her hand, was Alara, my wife. She was laughing and pulling another man, also a stranger, by the arm, leading him toward the hallway. The video had a caption, added in simple white text, "The party that was supposed to be only for women." I froze. The air left my lungs in a single, silent gasp. My blood ran cold. I rewound the video, paused it, zoomed in. On the faces, the gestures, the cheap decorations Alara had been so proud of, the matching t-shirts, now twisted and damp with spilled drinks. It wasn't fake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was proof. With every passing second, the knot in my stomach twisted tighter, harder, until it felt like it was tearing me apart from the inside. The video left no room for doubt, no room for excuses. What had happened in that house was so far from the version Alara had sold me with that calm, tired smile. The party had taken a turn. An ugly, irreversible turn. And now it was here. Exposed. Recorded. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Reese. "I don't know if you've seen, but there are more than one of these going around. And worse, people are tagging names." I lost my footing. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under my chair. The last shred of trust I had clung to, dissolved into nothing. What was once just a whisper of suspicion was now a screaming, undeniable betrayal. With a clear address, a date, and well-defined participants, I spent hours just sitting there. In my office, the video was paused on my laptop screen, a single, damning frame. Alara's laughing face. It felt like each scene had been burned not only into my mind, but into my body. My shoulders felt heavy, my throat burned. My stomach was a hollow, aching void. I needed to get out of there. I stood up, shut the laptop with a forceful snap, grabbed my car keys, and walked out of the office without saying a word to anyone. The drive home felt longer than it ever had before. The world outside my windshield seemed blurry, distant. All I could think about was what she had said that morning after she got back. The way she hugged me, the way she lied, so casually, so easily. That thought, it ate at my soul. I parked the car in our driveway but didn't get out right away. I just sat there for a few seconds, leaning my head against the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing, trying to control the cold, quiet rage that was building inside me. When I finally walked in, she was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, a half-finished glass of water on the counter beside her. She looked up when she saw me and gave me that smile. The same easy, untroubled smile. As if nothing had happened. As if our entire world wasn't about to end. I walked over to her. Slowly. Deliberately. I pulled my phone from my pocket and placed it on the granite countertop. Without saying a word, I pressed play on the video, and I stood there, still as a statue, and watched her reaction. Her eyes widened. The color drained from her face. Her smile vanished, replaced by a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. Her gaze dropped to the floor. She tried to mutter something, a pathetic, strangled sound. I raised my hand, a sharp, silencing gesture. "I saw everything," I said. My voice was eerily calm, devoid of all emotion, from start to finish. "And before you even try to come up with an excuse, just know one thing." I paused, letting the weight of my words hang in the air between us. "You destroyed everything." She tried to get closer, reaching a trembling hand out to touch my arm. "Donovan, please." I stepped back, away from her touch, as if she were poison. I stared into her eyes, and all the love I ever felt for her was replaced by the coldness of someone who had just buried a part of himself. My anger wasn't loud. It was silent, and that was so much scarier than any scream. "Get out of my house," I said. The words were flat, final. Now, she was stunned. "Kyle, please, let me explain. It was just one night. I messed up. I was drunk. You were sober enough to hide this from me when you got back," I countered, my voice like ice. "Sober enough to lie while looking me right in the eye. Sober enough to smile while you were cheating on me." I walked to the front door and opened it wide. "You made your choices," I said, not looking at her. "Now deal with the consequences." She tried to argue, said she needed her things, her clothes, at least her phone and her purse. I pointed outside. "You can arrange to get all of that later. Today, you leave with what you have on." She stood there for a few seconds, her face a mess of disbelief and dawning despair, as if waiting for me to change my mind, for the husband she knew to reappear. But his look, my look, was that of someone who had just closed a door that would never, ever open again. Slowly, she walked toward the exit. Before stepping through the doorway, she turned, her voice barely a whisper. "I never meant to hurt you." He didn't respond. I simply closed the door firmly behind her. I turned the deadbolt. The click echoed in the sudden, deafening silence of the house. I walked away without looking back. I stood in the middle of our living room for a long time, feeling the air. The house, once a place of safety and warmth, now felt hollow, contaminated with memories that had all been turned to lies. Hours later, I packed my own bags. I couldn't stay there anymore. I left everything behind. The furniture we picked out together. The photographs on the wall. The plans we had made, the promises we had broken. I only took with me the dignity of someone who, even when betrayed, refused to sink to the same level. I left a short note on the living room table, right where Alara used to put the fresh flowers I bought for her every Sunday. "You ruined our story for something that lasted one night. The difference is, that one night will live forever in everyone's memory." After that, I got in my car, and I drove away. The town, far too small to keep secrets, was already in flames. The impact on Oakhaven was immediate and brutal. In less than 24 hours, the videos spread like wildfire. Our quiet, peaceful town, previously known for its local fairs and friendly faces, became the joke of the entire region. The scandal passed from phone to phone, from group chat to group chat. It reached the churches, the schools, the grocery stores, even the old men who spent their mornings playing chess in the park. As soon as someone opened their phone, the question flew, "Have you seen the Bachelorette party video?" What shocked people most was how quickly names became attached to the blurry faces. Ilara, Serafina, Cassia, Anna, Claire, Julia, they were all identified, some by their features, others by their clothes, a recognizable tattoo, or simply because someone from the neighborhood recognized them. With the truth exposed, the reactions from the other husbands were devastating. Reese, the one who had sent me the video, kicked Cassia out that same day. He told her the kids would be staying with him. No discussion. Julia came home to find her bags packed and waiting on the porch, a note taped to the front door with just 3 words. "You ended everything." Another husband was sent a video of his wife walking into one of the bedrooms, laughing, with another man. The excuses of being pressured by friends died on their lips. Homes emptied out. Neighbors whispered from across their lawn. Kids started asking why their moms were crying, locked in their rooms. Teachers at the elementary school reported students becoming withdrawn, quiet. Parents called the school, requesting that their children not be seated next to the kids of those women. Even people who weren't directly involved felt the shame splash onto them. The small town where everyone knew each other by name, surname, and family history now carried a new, ugly label: the town of the Bachelorette party. While their husbands were making drastic, life-altering decisions, the group of women continued their frantic, panicked conversation in their messaging app. They tried to understand what happened, how the videos got out, and most importantly, who filmed it. Late one night, from the sterile quiet of my motel room, I saw a screenshot Reese sent me from a mutual friend. It was their group chat. Ilara had broken the silence. "Does anyone here know who filmed it?" 5 minutes of silence. Then Claire answered, "It had to be one of the dancers. I didn't see anyone with a phone, but thinking back, we were all drunk." Cassia added, "I think they filmed it secretly. We were too distracted to notice." Anna reacted with anger. "They filmed it and posted it on purpose. Was it all a setup?" The messages went on. Desperate attempts to find a culprit. A reason. A way to stop what was already unstoppable. Then, Ilara typed one last line before leaving the group forever. "Finding out won't change the fact that I lost my husband, and the worst part is, I can't even justify what I did." Shortly after, 2 more of them left the group. Those who stayed kept texting, but it was useless. None of them could undo what everyone in Oakhaven already knew. What happened in that country house had spilled beyond its gates and had turned into ruin in each and every one of their lives. The Bennett house, Ilara and Sarah's childhood home, once a symbol of respect in town, sank into a thick, suffocating silence. Mr. Bennett, their father, took days to face his neighbors again. When he finally went to the grocery store, old friends who had known him for 50 years suddenly found something interesting to look at on the cereal aisle. When he went to church that Sunday, he noticed the empty seats in the pew around him. As if the shame were contagious, their mother stopped leaving the house entirely. Trying to salvage some fragment of his family's honor, Mr. Bennett recorded a short video on his phone. He spoke calmly, but you could see the pain etched into his face. He said his daughters were raised with values, that their actions did not reflect the upbringing they received. At one point, his voice cracked. "I raised girls who knew the difference between right and wrong," he said, his eyes glistening. "But when they came back from college, they seemed different, colder, more distant than we ever believed possible." The video went viral in town. People called him courageous. Others said it was too little, too late. In Oakhaven, life went on, but nothing was the same. Restaurants that were once full would empty out when one of the women involved walked in. Parents transferred their kids to schools in the next town over. The sign at the town entrance, once a source of pride, woke up one day painted over with red graffiti. "Welcome to Oakhaven, town of the Bachelorette party." No one dared to erase it. It just stayed there, a permanent scar. Ilara tried to rebuild. She looked for jobs in other cities, but the world is smaller than you think. Her name, linked to the scandal, followed her everywhere. Sarah deleted all of her social media. She tried changing her look, even talked about moving to another country. But every attempt to restart was dragged back down by the past. It wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was a mark, a stain that would never wash out. Then, Weeks later, the final summons came. My lawyer called. The divorce papers had been filed and were ready. Alara didn't contest it. She knew there was no point. The biggest surprise was that I showed up in person at the courthouse to sign. I didn't have to. I could have had my lawyer handle it. But I needed to do this myself. I needed this final act of closure. I walked in quietly. My hair was shorter. I felt tired, but determined. She was already seated at the long table, her lawyer beside her. She looked nervous, her hands trembling as she clutched a pen. When I walked in, she stood up, her mouth opening as if to speak, but I walked straight past her. I didn't even glance in her direction. I sat at the table, signed where my lawyer indicated, and stood up. I left the way I came, silently, firmly, like someone closing a chapter they never wanted to read again. As I walked out, I could feel her eyes on my back. I heard a small, choked sob. I didn't turn around. I kept walking. It was in that moment, I think, that she truly understood. Some actions cost too much. Some mistakes break things so completely that no amount of regret can ever put them back together. And sometimes, regret comes far too late, when love is no longer in the room, or in the heart. And Serafina's wedding? Well, let's just say it was canceled. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next.